It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans, and I am your host this morning. Thanks for riding with us. I hope you're joining us on our website at americasvoicenow.org. If you're not joining us there, where you can catch us both audio or video, you can also find us on Patriot FB. That's Patriot F like Foxtrot, B like Bravo. It's a website where they carry our audio stream, and it's live every morning from 8 to about 9:45. We avoid the commercials for you, so you can you can also download the application or download the day's program and listen at your own leisure on a cell phone or something else. You can also join us and see our postings over at the constitutionclub.ning.com. Constitution Club is a sister site, or if you will, to it's a Patriot site, and they have something unique and different, which is that they have a little micro site, if you will, for every county in the United States of America. So if you want to meet up with other folks that are in your area that you may know, you may not even know, but you live right across the county from or the town from, then you have an opportunity to meet some, similarly situated individuals. So you can go to constitutionclub.ning.com, or, and it may be .org, I apologize, I may have flubbed that, or you can go to our friends over at patriotfb.com, and you can join there. I encourage you to do both, actually. You'll meet lots of people that are similarly situated and minded to you. And there's no lefties, there's no censorship like you're getting on Facebook and all the rest of that. Please make sure that you do visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now and hit the like button because it helps us to boost our numbers. We're a couple of people short on our Spreaker application, so if you wouldn't mind hitting the follow button, I would greatly appreciate it. We're only 2 people short of hitting 100, which would enable us to get onto iHeartRadio. And so if you wouldn't mind going over there to our site at Spreaker.com/user/America's Voice Now and hit the follow button, that would be greatly appreciated. While you're there, you can also download any episode that we've done so you can listen to them at your own leisure. They do have a mobile application that you can get as well, so you can put it onto your cell phone and get a daily update and listen at whenever it's convenient for you. And then last but not least, we have a listen line, which you can gain access to by simply calling 415-325-0725. That's 415-325-0725. After about 10 a.m. in the morning, you'll get that particular day's show, and you can call it at your leisure and do the entire thing. They call it radio by phone. That program is sponsored for us. It costs you nothing, and it's sponsored for us by a company called Audio Now, who has graciously offered us that service. So, all of that notwithstanding, and having said all that, please make sure that you find us at Big Country 99 or Rooster Radio at 99.3 on your FM dial. You can find us there from midnight to 2 a.m., and the folks over at Big Country are strong patriots, and we encourage you to, if you're in the radius, which is about a 75-mile radius or 60-mile radius of Houston, Missouri, you can pick up the program at 99.3 Rooster Radio, 99.3 FM. All right. This particular segment, we're going to talk about something which most of you probably aren't aware, which is that all your life you've been told fingerprints are so unique and that you're the only one who has those exact ones, and that fingerprints are empirical proof that you've been there and done that and that you were at the spot and blah, 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 blah. And it's reinforced through the Ministry of Propaganda and all the police shows that you watch, everything from, Chips, right? You remember the John and Ponch or whatever his name was, riding around on motorcycles in California and Miami Mice and all the other stupid shows that they used to have on, all the way up to today's CSI and Crime Scene Investigator and, you know, all of this other nonsense. Well, guess what? It's all crap. You know why? Because it's not the fact that fingerprints aren't unique. First of all, they are not as unique as most people would think. Number one, many times families and biological connections can make fingerprints very, very, very similar. So you might have, you know, a group of individuals in a family whose fingerprints are all very similar. Secondarily, there are people who, especially as they get older, their fingerprints almost disappear. If you'll look at a very aged person's hands, oftentimes you'll find that their fingerprints are almost non-existent. But more importantly, and here's what really matters, there was a study done, and this is an article out of the UK, and the reason why, you know, it's out of the UK is because, well, the study was done over there, but more importantly, you'll probably never see this posted in the United States. You've got to go to a UK paper to read it, because the United States of America wants you completely indoctrinated into the fact that you have no argument against fingerprints, that they're empirical proof that you were there. And it's not true. You know why? Because it's not that fingerprints are unique. What matters is who's reading the fingerprints. And the problem is that the people who are reading the fingerprints are generally not as skilled as they're touted to be. And here's the problem. The guys who are, and girls, who are considered these forensic experts have proven themselves to be wrong in a very, very stunning study. So these people were shown fingerprints, and they utilized those fingerprints to identify the individual. At a later date, they were shown the same set of fingerprints, and 63% of them drew a different conclusion the second time around. Hello? What does that mean? That means that they're only as fallible, that fingerprints are only as empirical as the people who are doing it are fallible or infallible. You know, there's no priest, there's no pastor that's infallible within his church. There's no cop that's infallible to corruption. There's certainly not a single politician that hasn't already fallen to corruption. So, what makes you think some guy who's taken a 1-week course in fingerprints should be making life and death decisions about other people when 63% of them got it wrong the second time around with the same set of fingerprints? Mark Silverman claims that human error, partial prints, and many false positives mean that fingerprint evidence is not as reliable as widely believed. Nobody has actually yet scientifically and empirically proven that fingerprints are unique. And families can share many of the same elements of the same pattern. In other words, the swirls and the whirls and the whatever, the whoop-de-doos and the humpty-blues and all that. Here's the other problem. There are scanning a fingerprint electronically, which is how they prefer to do it now rather than with ink, is a problem for a lot of people, not the least of which is if there are damage to the hands or if they're elderly and their fingerprints don't really show up. Because their skin loses its elasticity, right? I mean, everybody looks at an older person, sees wrinkles, now you know why. This guy Silverman, who was the Home Office's first forensic science regulator, says, essentially, you can't prove that no two fingerprints are the same. It's improbable. But so is winning the lottery, and people do that every week. No two fingerprints are ever exactly alike in every detail. Even two impressions recorded immediately after each other from the very same finger will have differences. It requires an expert examiner to determine whether a print taken from a crime scene and one taken from a subject are likely to have originated from the same finger. However, there are numerous cases in which innocent people have been wrongly singled out by means of fingerprint evidence. In 2004, Brandon Mayfield was wrongly linked to the Madrid train bombing by FBI fingerprint experts right here in the United States. We sent a bunch of forensic experts over there when that Madrid bombing, terrorist bombing, was done, and they identified the wrong guy. Our people did. Shirley McKee, a Scottish police officer, was wrongly accused of having been at a murder scene in 1997 after a print supposedly matching hers was found near the body. Silverman says, what both cases clearly demonstrate is that despite the way fingerprint evidence is portrayed in the media, all comparisons ultimately involve some human element, and as a result, they are vulnerable to human error. The fingerprint often isn't perfect, especially or particularly at a crime scene. It might be dirty, or it might be smudged. There are all sorts of things that reduce the accuracy. It is important that juries are aware of this. Too often they see programs on television like CSI, and that raises their expectations. What you see on CSI or Silent Witness simply doesn't exist. A study, which was led by Southampton University, found that 2/3 of the experts who were unknowingly given the same set of fingerprints twice came to a different conclusion on the second occasion. You do realize that this is the same kind of junk science as the idea of lie detector tests. Here's the problem. We have prison loads of people who are convicted on the word of alleged forensic experts. And every time that, these alleged experts get caught with their hand in the cookie jar or their pants down or however you want to look at it, the media is silent about it. There was a little bit of a blurb about the woman in, I believe it was in Michigan. She was a forensic expert doing all of this evidence testing for DNA on rape victims and rape, people accused of committing rapes, forensic evidence on fingerprints and forensic evidence of drug. Was it real drug? Was it fake drug? Was it real cocaine or was it, kitchen flour? Turns out she had fraudulently faked the test results on 40,000 cases. 40,000. Not 40, not 400, not 4,000. 40,000 cases. She wasn't even actually doing the tests. She would just take it and say, yeah, this one looks good. You know what her excuse was? I was busy. Really? People are in prison, and you're just too busy to bother with the test. How many people have had fingerprint evidence used against them, and a jury has relied upon that information and the testimony of the alleged expert? You see, what I'm trying to do here, folks, is I'm trying to expose to you that everything that you are presented is all manipulated, and it's intended to make you into a malleable, a little automaton who is, you're told what to do, you do it without question, you follow orders, you never raise the stink, you don't raise your head, you never question authority. Don't you see that authority is all in your mind? And this is a game that psyops are being worked upon you. Everything. It's all lies. I posted articles this morning up about the bond market. You say, well, I don't know anything about the bond market. I get it, and I understand. But the fact of the matter is that the bond market there are companies that are controlling literally trillions of dollars of these bonds. And I got to find it here. Dang it. I don't know where the heck it is. Anyway, the point is simply this. And I don't know, maybe Facebook yanked it off of there. They do that very commonly. Here it is. Trillion-dollar firms dominate the bond market, prompting probes in the U.S. The dirty little secrets that affect your world but you never knew existed. See, here's the point. Everything is not as it seems. Nothing is as it seems. There are two guys in this article, Bill Gross and Larry Fink, who collectively, between the two of them, managed $3 trillion worth of bonds. So you're trying to tell me that two guys are responsible for $3 trillion in bonds, which is the equivalent size of Germany's entire economy. Since 2008 alone, their holdings have doubled. Now, okay. See, suppose Bill Gross steps in front of a speeding bus. I mean, maybe he is a real genius. But when you're managing $1.5 trillion worth of bonds, everybody's future is in your hands. And I frankly don't think anybody's capable of qualifying for that level of responsibility. Nobody in justice, nobody in the courts, nobody in Congress, nobody in the presidency, nobody. Nobody should have that level of power and authority. And the reason that you don't even know about it is because the media doesn't want to talk about those kinds of things. They don't want you to realize how tenuous a thread, how thin and weak the spider web is that's holding up the entire grand piano. We've been hearing about IRS issues, right? And the IRS is being used to target people. Well, guess what? There's an article in this morning in Washington Times that they revoked the tax-exempt status of a group based on anti-Clinton statements that he made. This is the real reason the government wants control over every organization, every news organization, every reporter, that they want to license you as a reporter so that it can define who can tell you what about whom. It's a police state, people. But the papers won't print it, and the news won't tell you about it, and you're left to your own devices to see it. And that's only if you've got the critical thinking skills to see it and say, I recognize that for what it is. It may not even be something I agree with ideologically or whatever, or empirically, but I recognize that I have to look at this objectively, and I have to be willing to face the fact that there are some things out there I may not agree with that are true. They took away the tax-exempt status from a conservative charity. You know why? The Patrick Henry Center for Individual Liberty, based in Manassas, Virginia. Here's what they said. Quote, has shown a pattern of deliberate and consistent intervention in political campaigns and made repeated statements supporting or opposing various candidates by expressing its opinion of the respective candidate's character and qualifications. So that means that every church, every organization, every 501c3 is all subject to the, here's what they pointed out as his crime against humanity. This was a comment. The IRS pointed to a column that appeared in townhall.com, right? It's a online alternative media group. April 2nd. Aldrich, the guy who wrote it, is a member of this Patrick Henry Center for Individual Liberty. Quote, if John Kerry promises otherwise ill-informed swing voters lower gas prices at the pump, more than a few greedy registered ignoramuses will follow him anywhere. Another article cited by the IRS was a 2005, so they went back quite a ways, piece that is entitled Stop Hillary Now, which rallied Clinton haters to inform voters of Hillary Clinton's atrocious conduct. You see, that's free speech, folks. That's free speech. The IRS says, but if you have one of our 501c3s, you don't have free speech. We have a stranglehold around you. But nobody in the media wants to talk about these things. Nobody wants to tell you the real issues here. Nobody wants to tell you that lie detector tests are crap and courts won't allow them anymore. And fingerprints are just as big crap because nobody is really an expert on them. That your prosecutor who's convicted your cousin or your uncle or your sister or your brother or maybe you or your dad or your mother or your kid is really not working for the benefit of society as a whole, that he or she is really working and basing their decisions about who to prosecute and how and when on a bunch of political decisions and whether or not it feathers their nest. And the attorney who's representing you doesn't really represent you. They have sworn an oath of allegiance to the court. They owe their oath of allegiance to the court, not to you, no matter how much money you pay them. They are an officer of the court. That is where their highest allegiance lies. They take an oath to the court, not to you. See, the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that everything that you've been taught, everything that you've been, it's all a facade. It's all a lie. And you need to be aware of it because it's what affects and impacts you. You may not think so. You may not see its immediate action against you. But I got to tell you, every aspect of your life is controlled. And that's not what this was about. That's not what we fought, for. That's not what we fought a revolution for. And that's not what we've put all of our time and effort and money and energy into. That isn't right. And it's not what this was supposed to be about. Everything has been skewed. Did you know that a lie detector test is unacceptable in a court of law? And yet, the probation department says we can revoke your probation and put you back into jail based on a lie detector test which you fail. Hello. Let's just make up the rules as we go, depending upon how we feel about you personally. If we don't like you, or you give us too much lip or attitude, then we'll just make a law up and we'll apply it against you. The president says, hey, you know what? I think there's too many people in federal prison, so I'm going to make a unilateral decision to reduce and give them all a break and take them out of jail. Now, look, with all due respect, many of them probably shouldn't have been in there in the first place, but that's not how we do things, folks. This isn't a democratic banana republic. We'll be back in just a second.